So little John was only about 4 years old when he fell terribly sick. He was dying and his mother was at a loss as what to do. And so she kind of panicked, grabbed her child and ran out because she heard that Brother Francis of Assisi was coming through the town. Everyone was there, the crowds were around, and she with her sick child pushed through the crowds, crying out for help for St. Francis to bless her child. Hearing her cry, St. Francis reached through the crowd, picked up little John, and said, "Oh, Bonaventura, a good journey." Strange words, but the boy was completely healed, and from then forth he was known as Bonaventure. Good journey. St. Francis, somewhat predicting the life of this child would be a good journey of life. And so the boy grew in great wisdom. Not only was he physically healed, but he was blessed with an incredible knowledge. So very early on, he joined the Franciscan order, and he was sent to study at the University of Paris because he was just such a brilliant person that they did not want to waste that gift of his. And he began to study philosophy and theology. He studied astronomy and he studied mathematics. And he would just pour himself into his work. He actually, in the 13th century, at the University of Paris, he actually began working on what we call today quantum physics. He was 800 years ahead of his time, and he was just writing. I mean, it's just amazing what he wrote, his incredible work. But for Bonaventure's study, it was not just study. Everything picked up, whether he was studying mathematics, or whether he was studying astronomy, or was studying language, or the languages, or he was studying philosophy or theology, everything for him spoke to him about God. He saw in all things the hand of God. Whether he was studying astronomy or mathematics, or studying philosophy or theology, for him it was all about God. Later, when he became a professor, he would tell his students, "Do not study your theology. Pray it on your knees." That the knowledge of God was to lead us to the contemplation of God. And that contemplation was to lead us to intimate union with God. He became this incredible man of giving us pathways to the spiritual life, and his writings of the soul's journey into God, or the Tree of Life, other various works that the Triple Way, his various works on the spiritual life that he would write. Incredible, brilliant mind. Now, while he was at the University of Paris and getting ready to get his doctorate degree and begin his teaching, he bumped into a Dominican friar who became his really good friend, and they would talk theology a lot. This other Dominican priest would go on to be known as St. Thomas Aquinas. And these two friends, although approaching theology from two different directions, would give to the church the beautiful gift of what we now call scholasticism. These are the two pillars of scholasticism, these two friends. And they had a good friendship. One day, St. Thomas Aquinas came to visit St. Bonaventure in his room and at the university and said, "Where's your library?" He had no books except the Bible. And he pointed to the crucifix and said, "That's my library. I study the cross." One day, in a little bit of a discussion, it was getting quite heated or kind of funny, and Bonaventure looked at St. Thomas Aquinas and said, "You're the father of all heresies." It was just a lot of fun between the two of them. Later on, Bonaventure, at the age of 30 years old, would be elected to lead the Franciscan order through very difficult times. And for many years, he would lead the order. He'd write the first set of constitutions. He would continue teaching, but yet he was this great pillar of strength, not just for the order, but began to be so for the church. Today, we have such feasts on the calendar as the Presentation of Mary, the feast of St. Joachim and Anne, because of St. Bonaventure, and various other feasts. He made sure they got on the calendar and that they were celebrated. He gave so many beautiful gifts to the church. What a beautiful, I could go on, so many things are running through my head to say about St. Bonaventure, about what he did for the church. Suffice to say, he did a lot. And through all of it, through all of the struggles, everything he had to deal with, all of the different worries that were given to him to care for, he never lost sight of God. He continued to grow deeper in prayer. At one point, he decided to write the life of St. Francis, and he went to the mountain with St. Francis, received the stigmata, and there he was praying, and St. Thomas Aquinas came to visit him. And as St. Thomas approached, he saw St. Bonaventure lifted in the air, just off the ground in prayer, levitating in prayer. And St. Thomas Aquinas said to his companion, "Let us leave the saint alone to write about the saint." Part of their friendship, they were given by the Holy Father to write the Mass of Corpus Christi. The Holy Father was going to institute a new Mass in honor of the body of Christ. We know the beautiful feast of Corpus Christi. And so they were both asked to write a Mass, and the Pope would choose between the two, which he would have. So St. Bonaventure deferred to St. Thomas Aquinas to go first. And as they began to sing the Tantum Ergo, the O Salutaris, and all the songs we're so familiar with for Corpus Christi, St. Bonaventure backed up to the fireplace, threw all of his work into the fireplace, and said, "Nothing compares to the songs of angels." And so I always say we have the Mass of Corpus Christi from St. Thomas Aquinas because of the humility of St. Bonaventure. Later on, after he had finished being Minister General, exhausted after years of battling so many different things, he was just at home with the brothers, doing the dishes, relaxing, and a messenger came from the Pope. The messenger was carrying the red cardinal's hat and told Bonaventure that the Holy Father had appointed him the cardinal. Bonaventure said, "Hang the hat up on the tree. I'll pick it up when I'm done doing the dishes." So if you ever see a cardinal's hat hanging from a tree, it's usually a symbol of St. Bonaventure. In his humility, he didn't see it as anything great. What he saw as great was the love of God. Eventually, he took on that cardinal's hat, and the Holy Father entrusted him with the Council of Lyons. And he actually orchestrated the uniting of the East and Western churches. All of the delegates had agreed, and he organized this whole, it was just incredible what he did, this great council that he led. Unfortunately, when everyone got home, it was rejected by the Eastern churches, so all of his work came to nothing, but he never found that out. Because at the end of the council, exhausted from years and years of hard work and love of the church, he passed into eternity. The Holy Father so loved Bonaventure that the Pope asked every single priest throughout the world to celebrate a Mass in his honor. He was quickly canonized and declared a doctor of the church because of his great spiritual work. As I said, the seraphic doctor he's called. You know, when you look at his whole life and all the things that he did, all the things that he accomplished, so much. I'm just scratching the surface. What I get most from Bonaventure, and I've studied him inside out and backwards. I have 2 library shelves of his books, his writings. The one thing that comes through all of it, something we can all take from him, he was a man who fell in love with God and saw this life as one good journey, not just to God, but into God. That one does not just come to God, but one must immerse oneself into the very love of God. Like a moth throwing itself into a flame to become one with the flame. So one must throw oneself completely into the Lord and allow oneself to be engulfed with the flames of God's love. So today, as we celebrate this beautiful feast of St. Bonaventure, this magnificent theologian, this doctor of the church, let's just take that little bit from him. That each and every one of us may not just come to God, but may come into God. And truly not just read or study to know God, but that we might truly learn all things and see all things as a path, as a good journey to love God. May God bless you and Mary keep you.